It is clearly one of the most inept monsters in film history. It can't even run, yet it created one of the most unsettling psychological horror films of the 21st century. It doesn't scream, it doesn't hide, nor does it scare you with a hideous face. It simply disguises itself as anyone, day or night, walking toward you step by step, at a steady, unhurried pace. It could be a passerby on the street, or it could be your dearest parents. You never know when it will appear. You only know that no matter how far you run, it will always walk up behind you and tear you apart. Today, let's immerse ourselves in this movie that is suffocatingly slow, yet desperately unsolvable. It follows. On a suburban street at sunset, a girl in high heels runs frantically out of her house, her clothes disheveled and her expression filled with terror. As she runs, she constantly looks back as if something terrifying is chasing her. But eerily, the empty street behind her is completely devoid of anything. After circling the block, she runs home in a panic, grabs her car keys, and without even stopping to explain to her bewildered father, drives off toward the seaside. As night falls, she sits on the beach, the end of the land, with nowhere left to retreat. She calls her father, leaving a tearful goodbye.
Dad, I'm sorry I can be such a shit to you sometimes. I don't know why I do that. Just know that I love you, okay? I just really love you both.
The next morning, her body is discovered. Her leg is twisted at an impossible angle, with the bone piercing through the skin and exposed to the air. There is no murderer, no trace of a struggle. Obviously, this was no ordinary death. The scene shifts to our protagonist, Jay. Jay is an utterly ordinary college student living in a standard suburban house with a sister she gets along with, Kelly, and a few childhood friends. At 19, her biggest worry is merely which outfit to wear on a date. Immersed in romance, she has no idea that a nightmare is quietly approaching. Her boyfriend is named Hugh, and he seems gentle and considerate. On this day, they go to the cinema for a movie. At first, everything seems normal, but during the break, Hugh suddenly points toward the entrance and asks Jay nervously, "Do you see that girl in the yellow dress?" Jay looks in the direction he is pointing, but there is nothing there. Hearing this answer, Hugh's face instantly turns pale. Without saying a word, he drags Jay and rushes out of the theater. Jay is confused, but after hearing Hugh's perfunctory explanation, she doesn't think much of it, assuming he is just feeling unwell or suffering from some anxiety. A few days later, their relationship progresses further. Amidst the swaying shadows of trees in the outskirts, Jay completes that ritual of youth in the backseat of Hugh's car. She thinks this is the sublimation of love, unaware that it is actually a handover of death. Just as she is savoring the moment, Hugh suddenly covers her mouth and nose from behind without warning. Pungent smell floods in, and her consciousness instantly plunges into darkness. When Jay opens her eyes again, she finds herself tied to a wheelchair inside an abandoned, unfinished building. The cold wind howls and her fear reaches its peak, but Hugh doesn't hurt her. Instead, with a face full of guilt, he begins to explain the rules of this absurd and terrifying game. He tells Jay that when they were intimate just now, he passed something onto her. That thing is a curse. Once infected, and it will start following you. It can turn into anyone, a stranger, a friend, or even family, but only the cursed person can see it. Its goal is singular, to walk up to you and kill you. Its speed is slow, it only walks, never runs. But the problem is, it always knows where you are, and it never stops. The only way to escape is to pass the curse on to someone else. Jay listens in stunned silence, thinking Hugh is crazy, and cries out to go home. Just then, a naked woman appears in the distance, taking stiff steps, walking toward them one step at a time. This eerie and terrifying scene directly confirms everything Hugh said. Jay is scared out of her wits. Hugh hurriedly pushes her back into the car, eventually dumping her on the road in front of her house before disappearing into the night. Afterward, everyone assumes Jay was kidnapped or assaulted, resulting in trauma. The police investigate, only to find that the name Hugh is fake, and his rented house has long been vacated. As for the naked woman, no one has seen her. Naturally, no one believes the ghost story Hugh told. But nightmares never stop just because you don't believe in them. The first anomaly occurs in class. Jay, still unable to step out of the shadow, is listening to the teacher absent-mindedly. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she catches sight of something outside the window. On the lawn, an elderly woman in a nightgown is slowly approaching from the other end. Her steps are slow, but her direction is unmistakably clear, and her clouded eyes are fixed relentlessly on Jay inside the classroom. One step, two steps, getting closer and closer. Jay's breathing becomes rapid. She can no longer sit still, so she grabs her bag and rushes out of the classroom. However, she didn't expect that in just the blink of an eye, that figure would be right behind her. Jay instinctively screams, but the old lady gives no response, and the classmates behind her are confused. Obviously, they cannot see this old woman at all. At this moment, Jay truly realizes that everything Hugh said is true. She immediately runs to the diner where her sister works and tells everything to Kelly and their childhood friend, Paul, who has a secret crush on her. After hearing this bizarre experience, although they are skeptical, seeing the breakdown in Jay's eyes, they decide to stay at Jay's house tonight to keep her company. Late at night, Jay tosses and turns, unable to sleep. She grabs her pillow and goes to the living room, sitting beside Paul. They start chatting about childhood stories and memories of their first sleepovers, temporarily softening the atmosphere. But this tenderness lasts only a few minutes. Suddenly, the harsh sound of breaking glass comes from the kitchen, and Jay's nerves instantly tighten. Paul immediately gets up to check. He inspects the area and finds the kitchen window smashed. Yet there is no one around. The doors and windows are locked, and there is no sign of a break-in. However, to be safe, they decide to call the police. Paul runs upstairs to wake Kelly. While waiting, Jay can't resist her curiosity and cautiously walks toward the kitchen. However, the moment she turns her head, she sees a sight that scares the soul out of her body. A woman with disheveled hair and disarrayed clothes is slowly crawling in through the broken window. The woman has hollow eyes and a stiff expression. Jay's mind goes blank. She screams and runs upstairs, scrambling on hands and knees into her room, locking the door tight and curling up in the corner, trembling. Hearing the commotion, Kelly and Paul rush over. Jay finally breathes a sigh of relief and tremblingly opens the door to let them in. But just then, urgent knocking sounds on the door again. Paul alertly grabs a mop as a weapon and slowly approaches the door. Fortunately, a familiar voice comes from outside. It is their friend Yara. Their tense nerves instantly relax, and Kelly opens the door. But unexpectedly, in the next second, things change abruptly. A suffocating wave of terror crashes down on her. Jay doesn't dare look again. She screams, vaults over the balcony, jumps onto a bike in the yard, and pedals away in a frantic escape. It isn't until she rushes into an empty park that she slams on the brakes, sitting on a swing in shock, staring intensely at her surroundings, terrified that it will appear again. Moments later, her friends arrive in a hurry. Although no one knows what Jay is running from, the unexplained shattered kitchen window and her genuine terror are real, that it might truly exist. Their neighbor Greg arrives as well. Having witnessed Jay's breakdown, he volunteers to help. After calming down, Jay realizes that to understand all this, she must find the person who passed the curse to her missing boyfriend, Hugh. Everyone supports this and acts immediately, driving through the night to Hugh's former rental house. The house is dilapidated, but the simple warning system made of glass bottles and cans hanging on the doors and windows, along with an escape route in the closet, all confirm that Hugh had indeed been here, fighting a long and desperate battle of evasion against it. Continuing the search, Paul successfully finds a photo of Hugh and another girl in a stack of adult magazines. Jay instantly recognizes the high school uniforms they are wearing. Following this lead, the group rushes to that high school and finally finds the same face in the graduation archives. They learn that Hugh's real name is Jeff, and the address listed in the file is in a nearby town. Without delay, they follow the address to his home. Jay knocks on the door nervously, and it is Jeff's mother who answers. After hearing their purpose, she warmly invites them inside. Seeing that there is no way to avoid it, Jeff has no choice but to step out and face them. Filled with guilt, he insists that he is also a victim, explaining that he became cursed after an encounter with a stranger he met at a bar. To find relief, he researched every possibility, only to discover in despair that there is no cure. The only way to survive is to pass the curse on to the next person. Even more terrifying is that Jeff can still see it. Furthermore, if it kills Jay, the curse will return to him. Once this deadly relay race begins, it never ends. To evade it, Greg takes the group to his family's vacation cabin by the lake. It is remote enough that they might buy some time to find a solution. But even at the cabin, the suffocating atmosphere doesn't ease. To let Jay get some peaceful sleep, Paul guards her side all night. To increase Jay's ability to protect herself, Greg digs a gun out of the warehouse and teaches her how to load, aim, and shoot. During the holiday, everyone sits by the lake with Jay to distract her. However, what they don't know is that nightmares often descend quietly when people are most relaxed. Yara is clearly floating on the lake, yet not far away. Another Yara walks slowly out of the deep woods. No one notices anything wrong because, except for Jay, no one can see it until the next second. With no time to think, the group scrambles into the warehouse. Jay instinctively pulls out the gun and fires several shots at the thing, successfully knocking it to the ground. But before she can catch her breath, it stands up again, completely unharmed. Jay snaps completely and frantically locks the door. Her friends are equally terrified but have no idea what is happening. They only hear violent knocking on the door, followed by the wood splintering and flying apart. Just as everyone's nerves are stretched to the limit, Greg rushes over, asking bewilderedly what happened. Hearing Jay say there is someone outside, he turns to check the surroundings out of caution, even though he sees nothing. Afraid Greg will get hurt, Jay tries to stop him, but no matter how she shouts, he doesn't respond. Anxious, she summons her courage and slowly crawls toward the door. Seeing the terrifying scene, Jay turns and flees, while it instantly changes its appearance and continues to follow her unhurriedly. At this moment, fear has completely consumed Jay's rationality. She runs back to the car like a madwoman, ignoring her friend's shouts, and speeds onto the highway. But just then, a truck rushes out from the intersection ahead. She swerves hard, and the car spins out of control into a roadside cornfield. The violent impact knocks her out instantly. When she wakes up again, Jay finds herself lying in a hospital bed. Although she luckily survived, the fear of being stared at by the Grim Reaper follows her like a shadow. The instinct to survive makes her uncontrollably think of the only solution Hugh mentioned, passing the curse to the next person. As if sensing her thoughts, Greg beside her opens his eyes. There is no fear in his eyes, only desire. So that night in the narrow hospital bed, the curse is transferred once again. Afterward, Jay does feel lighter, and the oppressive feeling of being constantly watched disappears. Greg, on the other hand, never takes the curse seriously. He doesn't believe in the supernatural and thinks it's all nonsense. But what he doesn't know is that the Grim Reaper never jokes. So, late one night, a few days later, a sleepless Jay sees a horrific scene from her window. Under the dim streetlights, Greg appears across the street, walking stiffly toward Greg's house. He has hollow eyes, no emotion on his face, and his movements are terrifyingly natural. He walks to the house, picks up a rock, smashes the window, and climbs in. Jay immediately calls Greg to warn him, but no one answers. Ignoring everything else, she rushes out, running all the way, practically crashing into Greg's house, but she was ultimately a step too late. In the hallway, a woman's figure was pounding heavily on the bedroom door. Wearing pajamas, it was the exact image of Greg's mother. Greg is dead, killed right before her eyes. And that damnable curse, like a boomerang, falls back onto her. She breaks down and flees into the night, with no idea where to go, only knowing that she has to run and keep running. The next morning, she wakes up by an unfamiliar lake. Not far away, 3 young men are sitting on a speedboat. Jay looks at the boat, her eyes going blank bit by bit as the devilish thought spirals in her mind. She slowly takes off her clothes, steps into the cold lake water, and walks toward them step by step. The film cuts away here abruptly, but in your heart, you probably understand that when a person is pushed to the brink, getting a stranger to die in your place shifts from a moral baseline to a very realistic option. Back home, Paul is still guarding her, wearing that sincere, "I'd do anything for you" expression. This time, Jay shakes her head, not out of resistance, but because she knows that no matter who she passes it to, she will never be truly safe. Seeing her look of resignation, Paul suddenly has a crazy idea. Since it has a physical body and bullets can knock it down, that means it is not impossible to kill. It is a hypothesis with no guarantees, but it is the only hope they can grasp. So, to help the desperate Jay, the group decides to make one last stand. They choose an abandoned indoor swimming pool as their battleground, lining the poolside with every electrical device they can find. Jay then stands in the middle of the pool as bait, waiting for it to step into the water so they can turn on the power and electrocute it. The plan is simple, stupid, and even absurd, but it is their final resistance against fate at the end of their despair. Once everything is ready, Jay takes a deep breath and steps into the cold pool. The wait is agonizing. The surroundings are terrifyingly quiet, save for the sound of the ripples gently moving in the swimming pool. The others stand bewildered by the pool, looking around nervously. Then, Jay's expression changes.
I just walked in the room. It's right there.
Still, only Jay sees the thing. It changes form again, turning into an image that breaks Jay, her father, the father who is forever young in photos, but long deceased. The thing actually uses the face of her closest relative to kill her. Unsurprisingly, their plan fails completely from the start. It doesn't enter the water directly, but grabs various appliances from the poolside and frantically throws them at Jay in the water. The scene spins out of control instantly, but luckily, the electricity doesn't work as they anticipated. Jay screams and dodges desperately in the water, while the group on shore, unable to see the enemy, falls into chaos. Paul hurriedly pulls out his gun and fires blindly in the direction Jay points. In the confusion, a stray bullet hits Yara in the leg. Without worrying about anything else, he keeps firing. This time he seems to hit something. A burst of blood appears on the wall. Nah. Kelly has a quick idea and throws a bedsheet over the spot Jay is pointing at. Seeing it fall into the water, Jay frantically swims to the shore using both hands and feet, but she is a step too late. It drags her firmly underwater. No matter how she struggles, it is useless. In the critical moment, Paul can only fire madly behind Jay until one bullet hits it in the head. Its grip suddenly loosens and it sinks slowly to the bottom. The others struggle to pull Jay ashore. Gasping for air, she stares nervously at the water surface. The water gradually calms and everyone holds their breath. Jay trembles as she crawls to the edge. She sees a patch of dark red blood slowly churning up from the bottom of the pool. But other than that, there is no body, and nothing floats up. Is it dead? No one knows. At the end of the story, Jay and Paul are together. This time, it isn't about escape or transfer, but a resignation that if it is still there, they will face it together. In the final shot, they hold hands walking down a suburban street. The sun is fine, and the breeze is gentle, but in the blurry background, a figure seems to be taking stiff steps, following behind them, step by step. It is still there. It is always there. The story is over, but that lingering chill refuses to dissipate. It is hard to define exactly what it is. On a superficial level, it can be a highly creative metaphor for desire. Through transmission, you pass it to someone else and are temporarily safe. Sooner or later, it will circle back to find you. On a deeper level, it can be the death no one can escape, or the guilt of having hurt others and shirked responsibility. You can be like Hugh, desperately passing it down the line. You can be like Jay, trying to run further away time and time again. You can even be like them at the pool, naively using a head-on battle to solve the problem. But in the end, you find that no method can truly make it disappear. The only thing you can do is learn to live in the shadow of it. At the end of the movie, the director gives us a sliver of tenderness. Two people, knowing something might be following them, still choose to hold hands and walk forward firmly. This isn't optimism, nor is it compromise. It is a cruel realization of reality because many fears in life won't disappear just because you figure them out. They will only quietly follow behind you. What truly matters is whether you have the courage to walk forward and whether there is someone to walk with you. So the movie is called It Follows. After watching it, looking back at your own life, do you suddenly realize that some things have actually been behind you all along, never far away?